Welcome back to Southpaw Picks, and you're here with your host Charles, and this is UFC 273, Volkanovski versus the Korean Zombie, and we got a stacked pay-per-view card ahead of us, 2 title fights, Khamzat Chimaev versus Gilbert Burns, a couple other exciting matchups sprinkled in between, and you know we had a week off of MMA, so it halted a bit of our momentum, but we're hungry. We are coming off a week where we did lose 1 unit, bringing our total down to 19 plus units for the year, but nobody's complaining, and I've been chomping at the bit to get back up and make these plays so we can build up that unit count for the year and continue striving for greatness. Yeah, a lot of great takeaways from last week's card. I'm not going to really go too crazy into the recap because I feel like with the week off, people are just here and they want to get into this breakdown. So we're just going to jump right into it, starting off with the main event. Heavy chalk on one side, but we come in here with Alexander the Great Volkanovski versus Chan Sung Jung, aka TKZ, aka the Korean Zombie. Now, as you guys know already, quick rundown. This was supposed to be Volkanovski versus Holloway 3. Holloway pulled out with an injury. Fight got moved back from March 5th, and now it's taking place here on April 9th. Now, we are witnessing one of the greatest runs in featherweight history here with Alexander Volkanovski. He's 23-1, hasn't lost since 2013. Wonderful feints, great wrestling, great striking, great heart. And he's going up against a legend in Chan Sung Jung, coming in here as a plus 500 underdog. And quick trivia for you guys. The last time someone was this big of an underdog in a championship fight in the featherweight division was actually the Korean Zombie when he fought Jose Aldo way back in the day. So a lot of cool history going on here as far as Alexander trying to push and further his resume as one of the GOATs of the featherweight division, and probably Chan Sung Jung's last shot at a title here. But without getting into it too crazy, Volkanovski has the speed advantage here. He has the power advantage here. He's the more sophisticated striker. He's the better grappler. He's on a great path as far as creating a legacy for himself. And the Korean Zombie, I'll just call him the Korean Zombie, so I don't gotta say Chan Sung Jung all the time. But the Korean Zombie here, he's at a point where he kind of got gifted this title shot as a replacement. So there's not too much to expect. 35 years old, the wars he's been through. Korean Zombie has a puncher's chance, and I guess that's something that you can rely on when you're getting plus 500. But as far as I'm concerned, there's not too much to talk about here. Volkanovski is an 8-1 favorite. The price is way out of control, but I think Volkanovski wins via stoppage in the 4th round. I'm saying TKO up against the fence, maybe drops to a knee and gets the ground and pound. But I like Volkanovski by KO and really put a stamp on that resume. Moving on down to the co-main event, a fight that I am super excited for. Aljamain, the Funk Master, versus Petr. Now, both these fighters, just like the main events, both guys came in weight. Both guys look great. Aljamain crying at the scale. A lot of emotions going in here. This is a big fight for both guys. A huge fight for the history of the bantamweight division. As you guys know, one of the most stacked divisions in the UFC. Now, Petr is coming out here as almost a minus 450 favorite, minus 500 favorite across the books. Now, is it warranted for him to be that big of a favorite? I disagree. When this line opened pretty close in their first meeting, Aljamain started out very hot, putting out the pace, throwing 70 strikes in the first round. He did win the round 1. He did win round 2 debatably, and then at that point you start to see him taper off. Now, Aljamain has never looked that bad, ever, right? So you got to wonder, is he going to look that bad again? Most likely not, right? He can't get any worse than that performance he put on there. And as you know, Aljamain has great jiu-jitsu, great grappling, very unorthodox, and, funky striker, right? He's the Funk Master. And then you got this tactician in Petr, and he's just downloading all your information in round 1. He usually takes off the round 1, so it's one of those things. He kind of lets these guys gain ahead of him, and he picks his spots. And when he lands those overhand rights, or when he lands those nasty body kicks. He's a nasty fighter, man. Debatably one of the best fighters we have currently in the world. And as much as I'm a fan as Aljamain, and as much as I believe that, you know, this line is not fair, it's not accurate, he shouldn't be this big of a favorite. You know, the plus 300 on Aljo is worth a sprinkle no matter what. He's a fantastic fighter, but I gotta go with Petr, and I think he ends this inside the distance, a late stoppage. Aljamain's a wonderful fighter, but I do believe Petr is the current best bantamweight right now. There's a lot of guys coming up the pipeline. I just don't feel Aljamain here at 32 years of age, you know, he's a finished product. Petr is getting better and better. And I like Petr here by 4th round, 5th round stoppage, late stoppage, TKO on my boy, the Funk Master. But I hope he pulls it off. Definitely worth a sprinkle. Moving on down to the people's main event. We got Gilbert Darian Burns versus Khamzat Chimaev, the Wolf. Gilbert Burns, as you know, number 2 welterweight in the world. He's coming in here winning 4 out of his last 5, only dropping 1 to the champion in Kamaru Usman, 6-1 in the welterweight division. But a key factor here, not only is there an 8-year age gap, not only is there a height and reach gap, not only is there an issue where Gilbert used to fight at lightweight, and Khamzat debatably could make a run at middleweight and has talked about winning the title at light heavyweight, which is 205. I believe these guys are on 2 different weight classes, 2 different points in their life. Gilbert Burns is a badass for taking the fight. He's got nasty jiu-jitsu, great low calf kicks, nasty overhand right. He's got a nice lead check hook that he caught Damian Maia with when he put him out. But I have bought a bill of goods. I believe Khamzat is who he says he is. I believe what I'm seeing. I don't think this is a hype train, and I do think he's going to run through Gilbert Burns like a hot knife through butter. Now, would I love to see Khamzat get tested here? I would love to. I'd love to see Gilbert kind of, you know, put him in awkward positions and threaten him with some chokes and submissions in the grappling exchanges, but I just think it's going to come down to the size, and I just don't think Gilbert physically is big enough to handle the rustling of Khamzat Chimaev. Now, if this fight goes past the 2nd round, then it will be really interesting, but I don't think it will. I think Khamzat finishes Gilbert Burns' 1st round KO and puts on a memorable performance that we'll be talking about down the line, and I believe we'll be screaming title shot after this, or if not, give him Colby Covington. I like Khamzat Chimaev by 1st round KO, and he looked phenomenal on the scales. Moving on down to a strawweight bout here. We got Mackenzie Dern versus Tecia, the tiny tornado Torres. Now, Tecia Torres has had a bit of a resurgence in her career here. She's 32 years old, and she's won 3 straight fights. Now, she's coming off also of 4 straight losses to former title challengers in Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Wei Li, Jessica Andrade. So she's lost to high level competition. But let's get into this, in my opinion, a bit of a fraudulent win streak here. A win over Brianna Fortino, who has yet to fight again in the UFC, and her only win being Lavinia Souza, who we all know is not UFC caliber. Sam Hughes took the fight on short notice. She got a boo-boo in the eye. She quit. There's another W for Tecia Torres. And then Tecia Torres picks a fight with Angela Hill, who, a bit of an older fighter at this stage in her career, and still gave her a decent scrap. Now, Mackenzie Dern is coming off a loss in a 5-round main event to Marina Rodriguez, a fighter who's only had 1 loss and actually has a win over Tecia Torres as well. And before that, she won 4 straight, and in my opinion, just against a little bit better competition. Hannah Cifers, I would say, in the same ballpark as Sam Hughes, but I would rate Verna Jandiroba and Nina Nunes a lot higher than I would rate Angela Hill and Sam Hughes. Now, at first, looking at this based on the performance Mackenzie Dern had, I was thinking Tecia Torres all day. The form she's in, the striking, good footwork, good kickboxing. But you know what? You got to take into accountability the metrics here. Mackenzie Dern had 25 minutes in the octagon and with probably top 2, top 3 strawweight in the world, and she didn't get finished. She hung in there. She had her moments. She got Marina to the ground in the second round, and maybe if she had a better game plan, she could have got her out of there. Now, as you know, Mackenzie Dern, they say she's the best grappler in the world, pound for pound when it comes to jiu-jitsu. Now, her wrestling isn't that good, and this is all what worries me here in this matchup. But if there's one thing I know about the way judges look at these fights, and I do believe that this possibly will see the judges, Mackenzie Dern pushes forward. Her strikes sometimes look sloppy, they look a little ugly, but she's got pop to the strikes. She's got heavy hands. She's the bigger woman here. She's much bigger than Tecia Torres. She's primarily a grappler, and she pushes forward. I believe Tecia Torres might light her up in the beginning of the rounds, but I do feel like as time goes on, Tecia being on her back foot, on her bike for the whole fight, because I don't believe Ticia's going to be able to land a strike hard enough for, Mackenzie to really respect her here. And as far as reach goes, Mackenzie Dern has a 2-inch reach advantage. Listen, I know her strikes look a little awkward when she comes out, but she does pump out that jab. She does throw that overhand right. She does like to clinch up, and she's the bigger girl here. Tecia Torres has to be flawless pretty much. She just has to stick to a game plan for 15 minutes, so I do understand why people are looking into Tecia Torres, but I can't get behind it. I'm going to go with the younger. I'm going to go with the specialist. I'm going to go with the girl also I've been noticing from fight to fight to fight. Look at the physique evolution of Mackenzie Dern. She's just getting bigger and stronger. And yeah, Tecia Torres has got a nice physique as well, but size matters, and I feel like Mackenzie Dern is going to have the physical ability to bully Tecia Torres here. I like Mackenzie Dern. I don't think she gets the sub, but I think she can win a unanimous decision here, 29-28. My pick's Mackenzie Dern. Moving on down, we got a lightweight fight that's been moved on to the main card pay-per-view. We got Vinc from Hell Pichel versus Marco Madsen. As you know, Marco Madsen is a silver medalist in Greco-Roman wrestling out of Denmark. And he's coming up against a tough SOB in Vinc Pichel. 14-2 in the UFC, very underrated record. Got some wins over at Roosevelt Roberts, Jim Miller, and Austin Hubbard. Opponent that they share a win against as well. And then we got Marco Madsen with his couple wins here against Hubbard and Clay Guida. One loss for Pichel recently coming from Gregory Alessi, who's a high-level wrestler. Now, credentials-wise, Marco Madsen has higher wrestling credentials, but as far as a pick goes, he gasses out bad in these fights. Striking is not, it's very low level, his striking. It's definitely someone who's developing it in his late age of 30. Got a bit of power to him because he is a pretty stud athlete. As you know, he's an Olympian. Vinc Pichel is a dog, man. He's a tough guy. He likes to kind of bully people in the pocket. He's got a 25% takedown defense, though, and his 2 losses come into grapplers. This is a tough fight. This is a fight that, I really don't want any business betting, but this is how I can see this fight going. Mark Madsen starting out hot, implementing his Greco-Roman style. He's very physically powerful. He throws guys all over the place and suplexes. I can see him really ragdolling Pichel in the first half of the round. Now, barring gas tank for Marco Madsen, if he's able to, keep up that pace, I feel like he can have a lot of success against Pichel. But, as you know, Vic is one of those guys who just has the ability to really have a good gas tank late in the fight, and Marco Madsen, declines his ability in the fight. Now, last fight, Marco Madsen didn't even wrestle, he just struck, so it's like, how are we supposed to trust what game plan he's going to come with? With that being said, I like Vic a lot at this minus 130 tag, but just based on the caliber of wrestler Mark Madsen is, and the glaring weakness that Pichel has in his takedown defense, I'm gonna say Mark Madsen wins a greasy close fight, probably wins the first 2 rounds, and looks like he's almost gonna get finished in the third. Reluctantly, I'm gonna go with the higher level athlete. I'm gonna go with Marco Madsen, and he's a slight dog, so I gotta take the slight dog there with the silver medalist. And that concludes the main card portion of this pay-per-view. Now we're going to get to the prelim headliner, Ian the Future Garry versus Darian Weeks. In the future, Garry, as you know, Cage Warrior product, pretty much putting himself on that pedestal as Conor McGregor. He talks a big game. He walks a big game. He's 8-0, and he's going up against a guy in Darian Weeks who he's got a 5'11 to 6'3 height advantage, but only a 2-inch reach advantage as per Tapology. I think this is a squash match. I think as much as Darian Weeks looked competitive against Brian Barberena in his debut on short notice, and he's got a little bit of skills, physically strong, I think he's outmatched here, just size. And Ian Garry's very good at poking shots from the outside, left high kicks. And, this is just one of those things. It's a showcase fight. Ian Garry looked a little sloppy in his debut in the UFC, so a lot of people want to poke holes in his game and say, Darian Weeks has value. He doesn't have value. Ian Garry is going to go out there and he's going to starch him real early. I don't think this fight gets to the third round, and I like Ian Garry by a head kick in the second round. And this is a showcase fight. Darian Weeks, thanks for coming. But you're 15 minutes in the UFC. It's not going to last. He might get another fight after this one, but probably just going to get tossed to another prospect, unfortunately for Darian Weeks. Moving on down the card here, we got a bantamweight scrap. Aspen Ladd versus Raquel Pennington. Pennington taking this fight on short notice. She's coming on a 3-fight win streak, winning 4 out of her last 5. She's a tough fighter, man. She's got great boxing. She likes to clinch up against the fence. She's a dog. If you're not prepared to be in a dog fight with her, you're not going to last. And she's obviously taking this fight on short notice against the number 4 ranked bantamweight in the world, Aspen Ladd. She's been trading wins and losses recently, but she's won 3 out of her last 5 altogether. Aspen Ladd's a weird case. She looks so horrible in her fight against Norma Dumont. Wasn't engaged, but she was sick a couple weeks prior, took the fight on short notice, up a weight class. Just not the ideal situation for her. I like Rocky in this spot. She's got crisper hands. She's got a lot more heart. I feel like she'll go in there and fight for the dollar. My one worry is if Aspen Ladd can get the takedown, I feel Rocky will get up the first time, and I need Rocky to touch her up when she gets up. Don't give Aspen Ladd another opportunity to shoot. When you get up, and she will get up. I don't see Aspen Ladd holding her down. When she gets up, touch her up. Do not let her try and body lock you to the floor. Aspen Ladd, you can see sometimes when things don't go her way, she starts to really lose confidence in there. Where I like a girl like Rocky, she's a dog. She's going to fight for your dollar. And I like Rocky Pennington by decision. And I think she runs away with it with the striking numbers. Moving on down here, we got another welterweight scrap between Mickey Gall and Mike Malott. Now, Mike Malott, very tough to get a good read on him. He's fighting out of Burlington, Canada. Former featherweight, been very inactive over the course of the last few years. Striking coach out of Alpha Male, that's the most I could tell you. Dana White Contender Series, he gets the guillotine in 39 seconds. Not much is shown on him. He hasn't really fought past, he hasn't really gone too deep into fights. The one fight I believe that he went to a decision, looks like here it was a draw to a guy who was 5-4. Other than that, his fights are finishing pretty early. Now, he's coming in here as a -200 favorite against a guy in Mickey Gall who, we've seen him win against bad competition. We see him lose against guys he should beat. This is a really weird fight as far as I'm concerned. We got a guy who's coming in as a 2-1 favorite, and he hasn't even put out enough footage. He's not active, and it's hard to get a good gauge on him, right? And we got a UFC veteran in a sense, Mickey Gall, who's 7-4, and he's coming in as a +150. Now, I think in this spot, you just got to go with the dog, man. I feel like Mike Malott, what do we know? It's a UFC debut here. We don't really know how good he is, right? We don't even know if he could fight past the second round convincingly, right? He's drawing. He's having a draw with a 5-4 fighter, but he's coming in here as a -200 favorite against a UFC veteran. Mike Malott may go out there and get the stoppage early, and then we're all like, damn, maybe we should have rode with it. But I'm going to go with Mickey Gall. I'm going to go with the UFC veteran here. When these guys come out the Contender Series and they're favorites against UFC veterans, these are the types you snipe good value on fighters. We saw it last week with, Borshev coming in as a contender favorite against a UFC veteran and Mark Diakase. You can't disrespect these guys that have been under the bright lights. And this is the first time Mike Malott's going to be under the bright lights. So I'm going to go with Mickey Gall with the upset there. And I think I think this fight extends past 5 minutes, and we get surprised at how gassed Mike Malott looks. And I think I can see Mickey Gall take his back and get the submission. Moving on down to the other heavyweight fight, we got Aleksei Oleinik, the bull constrictor, versus the mounted Jared Vanderaa. Jared Vanderaa, I'm going to start with him. He's a run-of-the-mill heavyweight. Comes in out of shape all the time. Comes in at that 266 weight limit. He's got some pretty decent losses here to Sergey Spivak, Alexander Romanov, and most recently a real close fight to Andrei Arlovski. And then we got the bull constrictor coming off two finishes and then losing a decision to Sergey Spivak. Now they both share losses to the same guy, although I would say Oleinik in his late age was far more competitive in a fight with Sergey Spivak than Jared Vanderaa. But 44 years old to 29 years of age, 22 pounds in weight difference, 2 inches in height. If the bone constrictor doesn't get it done in round 1 with a scarf hold, you know, his routine move, and then gets himself 60 wins and retires and rides off in the sunset, it's going to get sticky for him. Jared Vanderaa is a big boy, and he can put on a pace, even though he is out of shape. He can throw a bunch of teep kicks, a bunch of straight punches down the pipe. He's a big boy. He's a natural heavyweight. Aleksei Oleinik used to fight on middleweight, so, you know, he's just an out of shape older guy here, but very skilled in the grappling department, can snatch up a Ezekiel choke from the bottom, can snap a scarf hold from the top. I just can't bet on Oleinik anymore at this stage. I just feel like he's been touched too much. He's 44 years of age, man. 22 pounds, you know, lighter than his opponent. Even on short notice, very sketchy. I'm going to go with Jared Vanderaa, and I'm going to say he gets the finish on our boy Aleksei Oleinik and stops him from getting 60 wins, unfortunately. And, yeah, you know, 44 years old, Aleksei Oleinik needs to get out the game, man. Speaking of this, now we got a guy in Anthony Fluffy Hernandez versus Josh Fremd. Josh Fremd is taking this fight on short notice. I've watched a lot of his film. I actually bet against him in his LFA fight against Gregory Rodriguez. Rodriguez was a big dog, and Rodriguez knocked him out. Now, he's 6'4". He's got a slight reach advantage, but I just don't think he's prepared here in this spot. Fluffy has had, you know, interesting spots in his career where he's been touched up to the body and he's kind of broke down, right? We saw Kevin Holland go in there and just, you know, completely run through him. But then we see him in other situations where he kind of drowns guys and gets the choke. Now, I don't know how much Josh Fremd has been training for this. You know, it was very difficult to even track down an interview recently because he took this fight on short notice. But one thing I can tell you is he has power. He has great knees. He's got decent wrestling. Is the gas tank going to hold up? Well, I think I love the spot of this fight not going the distance, but I'm sure everybody's on that. Josh Fremd can get the KO early, but if he doesn't get the KO early, Anthony Hernandez will get him with the pace and probably get a sub. I'm just going to stick with the guy in Hernandez who's got the full training camp, who's going to be in shape, that you know is going to be in shape. And I'm going to just give him the respect that he'll be able to handle this newcomer, avoid the power, let him gas out, and get the rear naked choke. A fight I like to stay away from. I even like if you wanted to sprinkle a single shot on Fremd, but as far as prediction goes, I'm going to go with Fluffy Hernandez, and I'm going to take him to win by a rear naked choke in the 3rd round. Moving on down here, we got a, whatever you want to call this, a strawweight bout. Kay Hansen coming in, missing weight by 3.5 pounds. Horrible. As you know, she's 22 years old. Pretty much, I'm going to say right now, she's going to have a 7-6 record. She's clearly not putting all her time into this sport. She's clearly too invested in her OnlyFans. And as much as you can see the talent when she fights, her IQ, her want to, it's just not there. And she's going up against a girl in Piera Rodriguez who I believe wants to be here. I was watching that little docuseries on her, seeing that she's sleeping in a closet. Has visa issues. She's living out of a bag. This is a girl that's going to fight, right? Even if she was slightly less technical or slightly less skilled, she has a dog. She hits hard and she walks forward. And she's been training all her life for this spot. She's 7 years older, and I think she's more dedicated here. I think Piera Rodriguez rolls. that weight miss. I know over the course of history, girls that do miss weight tend to win these fights, but I don't think it's going to happen here. I think Rodriguez is going to go in there, and I think she's going to break Kate Hansen, box her up, hit her up, bully her in there, and make her tired. Because if she's out here missing 3 pounds of weight and not being concerned and not caring, I don't think she wants to be in an octagon with a girl that this means a lot to her. I love Piera Rodriguez in this spot, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm going to load up on her. I think she gets this done. Kate Hansen, to me, is showing she's not into it. Moving on down. We got the opener. Julio Arce versus Daniel Willie Cat Santos. Santos making his debut, but this is a debut that we're going to pay attention to. Julio Arce looked horrible on the scales. He got knocked out a couple months ago. I don't even know if you think about when you get knocked out like that, you get about a 30, 60-day suspension. So you already know for a month he wasn't really being active. So he's got 3 months to prepare for this. And a guy in Daniel Santos who they were trying to book a lot of fights for, but fights just kept getting canceled and canceled. He hasn't fought in a couple years. So it does make me weary on, just what was he doing? And is he going to be ready and be in rhythm after not fighting for a couple years? But I did hear from people inside his camp, he trains with guys like Charles Oliveira, that he is a nasty with the spinning attacks, his pace, he's very dangerous. And I feel like he can overwhelm Julio Arce early in this fight. I don't like it. At first I was going to lean Arce, veteran savvy, great jab, great striking, great IQ. But as far as this goes, I think the best bet in this situation is this fight does not go the distance. Daniel Santos is going to leave it all out there, and Julio did not look good on the scale. So as far as I'm concerned, neither guy is prepared to go 15 minutes here. And like I said, I was leaning Arce, but after careful consideration, I'm going to take a dog shot here on Daniel Santos. We've been riding chalk a lot through this card, but here's a dog I like. Daniel Santos, Willie Cat, and I think he gets Arce out there with a spinning back elbow. Trust me, go check the tape. This guy's nasty with the spinning back kicks. He's nasty with the spinning back elbows. And I do believe, although we haven't seen it, coming out of that camp, I'm going to go ahead and assume his jiu-jitsu is nasty. Now, that concludes UFC 273 as far as the breakdowns go. And as you know, I'm going to be posting my bet slips here. Sign up with FanDuel, so obviously the bet slips are going to look a little different this week. I'm going to show you. I took a lot of spots as far as parlays go, so I'll show you the parlays I'm working with this week. But I got a lot of straight shots that I like. Like, I like Mackenzie Dern a lot. Ian Garry a lot. Jared Vanderaa, sketchy, but he's a play I'm going to be looking into. Piera Rodriguez, and I like the Daniel Santos Arce fight not to go the distance. I like Khamzat Chimaev inside the distance, under 1.5. And I like Volkanovski by KO. So there's a lot of the straight shots I'm going to be taking, and I will be posting, obviously, the public parlays. But like I said, man, we got 8 weeks straight now. The week off was nice, but, I'm very excited to get back into it and make some money, man. So thank you again for stopping by Southpaw Picks. Catch you guys later.